Hello everyone. The Shroud of Turin is a fabric that science itself declares miraculous, given the extraordinary and inexplicable nature of its physical properties. The Shroud of Turin is clearly the irrefutable proof of the divinity of Jesus Christ and an element for understanding his resurrection. Because this relic is extraordinary, it has inspired numerous studies, books, articles, and explanatory videos on the internet. This video does not add anything more to all these testimonies. It simply aims to synthesize the information as much as possible to present to the skeptics arguments in favor of the divinity of Jesus Christ. Certainly, for the believer, there is no need to scientifically prove the existence of miracles to maintain their faith. But for the non-believer, the knowledge of miracles that prove the existence of God sometimes triggers the spark that allows for conversion. Because, as Pasteur said, a little science distances from faith, but a lot brings one back to it. And among all the miracles that prove the truth of the Christian faith, there is, of course, the Shroud of Turin. The account I am going to unfold is largely inspired by the book by Jacques Laurenti, titled Facing the Miracle. The shroud displayed in Turin is the linen cloth that covered the body of our Lord Jesus Christ at his death. It shows the blurred image of a man who underwent tortures consistent with what is known about the Passion of Christ. The image on the shroud was neither drawn nor painted. It is not due to any paint pigment, dye, stain, oil, spices, or substances secreted by a dead or living human body. This has been verified by various techniques, including X-rays, fluorescence, and microchemistry. On the other hand, the bloodstains on the fabric test positive for hemoglobin, blood type AB. It is the same blood type as other Christ relics, namely the Sudarium of Oviedo and the tunic of Argenteuil. Additionally, there are traces of bilirubin in the identifiable bloodstains on the shroud. This is a substance secreted by the liver in cases of intense stress, such as could occur during an anaphylactic shock under the effect of torture. The image on the shroud is a photographic negative of the body of Jesus Christ. It is a 3D image, created by a very fine dehydrating acidic oxidation of the linen fibers of the shroud. It was obtained by irradiating a linen fabric with a particle accelerator that bombarded the fabric with protons. The oxidation results from the intense proton radiation. The thesis to explain the resurrection of Jesus from this experiment is as follows. Protons would have been extracted from the atoms of Jesus' body by a phenomenal energy. Only the linen covering Jesus would have been bombarded with protons during the dematerialization of his body, in a sort of resurrection flash. The history of the scientific study of the shroud begins in 1898. That year, Segundo Pia, a lawyer interested in photography, a technological innovation. At the time, he was allowed for the very first time to photograph the shroud. The principle of photography then involved covering a glass plate with silver chloride crystals. Then, the plate is immersed in an acidic developing bath. After the bath, only the crystals that have hardened and taken on a more or less dark hue remain, depending on the amount of light received. This results in a negative of the original image, meaning an inversion between shadow and light of the photo compared to the original image. When Segundo Pia begins to process the plates to reveal the image, he only knows the shroud as a not very clear image, as if the water and blood that marked the image had spread by capillarity into the fibers. Segundo holds in his hands a plate on which he had made a close-up, just on the face of the man of the shroud. In a few minutes, the material sets, and he sees before him an image that is much clearer, more precise, with many more details. Segundo is then overwhelmed because he realizes that he is the first man in almost 2,000 years to see the face of Christ. The image has since been studied by hundreds and hundreds of scientists whose studies confirm the extraordinary and inexplicable nature of the image on the shroud. It is hard to imagine a corruption of all these scientists, as some of them were the only specialists, or almost, in their field. This was notably the case for the scientist who passed the shroud through the only NASA machine capable of reconstructing a three-dimensional image. What is the probability for the enigma of the Shroud of Turin to be a hoax, what would be the chance that the Catholic Church has been controlling it for over a century? All the teams of expert scientists who have studied the shroud and are forced to falsify their reports to make people believe in a miracle. There is no chance, of course, and we are indeed in the presence of a miracle that could even be described as definitive to prove the divinity of Jesus Christ. The Shroud of Turin is indeed the proof of his divinity that Jesus wanted to bequeath to modern dechristianized societies. It alone, in fact, possesses the scientific and technical knowledge capable of exposing the mystery of the shroud, yet without succeeding in solving it. The story of Secondopia unfolded at a time when strong-minded individuals were imposing atheistic sciences and philosophies in Western countries. It happened at a time when Nietzsche could write, "God is dead." But in our time, on the contrary, science tends rather to rehabilitate, in a way, the existence of God. Through the latest knowledge on the birth of the universe, on genetics, on the questioning of the theory of evolution in particular, or even through the study of miracles related to the modern apparitions of the Virgin Mary, is addressed in another video of this series. It's as if God were saying to men, as your scientific and technical knowledge has progressed, you believed you could guide yourselves. You believed you could access knowledge without God. But your pride has built towers of Babel on sand. I am preparing you to become aware of this through these revelations of science. Just before my return in glory, thank you for listening to me. Feel free to like, share, and even join us in the non-virtual world. Have a good day, and may God bless you.